First of all, it's not an on-off switch. That's one piece of advice that I think it's not a case of that you're just going to simply figure it out one day and then you're off to the races. It's a constant sort of process of experimentation to see what works and what doesn't. Because I can tell you, I've made all kinds of mistakes and continue to every day, but certain things kind of move along the path. Like, for example, I know that I love working from home right now, right? I don't have kids yet or things like that, and I really like having a home environment and working from coffee shops and being mobile. That's something that's important to me. So now when I make a business decision, I make sure to keep that in mind. And it's the whole idea of creating the business around your life as opposed to your life around the business. And the other thing, though, is not to stay static. I mean, I try different things. I come up with weird stuff in the middle of the night and say, I'm going to try this. Sometimes it works really, really well. And I'm like, this fits into my life. This fits into the way I want to do things. Other times it doesn't. But if you don't try new stuff and try to kind of see what turns you on and what keeps you going, then you're going to get stuck in that static thing of what if. And I think that's what you want to avoid.
Okay. Why do you think it is that you've rocketed from the top of the podcast charts as fast as you have? I mean, you were a relative unknown, and now you're like, there's a lot of people in this world that know who you are. How do you think it happened so fast?
No, I appreciate that. I don't think anyone really knows me, but yeah, we went from, just to give you kind of the quick background on that for the listeners, is that in 2008 we had 3 viewers: myself, my mom, and my dad.
It's always your mother, right?
Right, essentially. Grandma sometimes. That's when we were doing well.
Right.
And it's and that was also, and then there was the whole TV medium and all that stuff. That's one other story. But now to fast forward, now we're in 2011. Last year, the show got about 3.7 million downloads last year.
Amazing.
And this year, it's on pace to do even better than that. So there obviously, it's interesting. And I really didn't spend any money. That's what I find interesting. I did on the TV production at the time, but I can tell you what the keys were really to kind of growing this. One, really consistent effort. I mean, especially in 2000, I would say 2000, end of 2009 into 2010 was a tipping point, because what happened was there was a lot of experimentation. I still do a lot of experimentation, but at that point I was really trying to focus on TV, quote unquote, and also online community. But then I was like, screw TV. I just want to do online community because that's what I love. And so in 2010, I really got to focus on really building that community up online. And I can tell you a few different things that kind of built it. Number one was consistently posting good stuff. So even in 2010, I even do a little bit less now, and I might go back to doing a little bit more. I would post 5 days a week on my website. 5 days. For a while, it was a video every single day, Monday through Friday. And what happened is people start to understand that there's a consistent effort. It's like the Oprah effect, right? Like people know when to show up. And so consistency was important. Number two was, and you heard this from people that I'm sure that you follow and pay attention to, like a Tim Ferriss, and also on the other hand, like a Gary Vaynerchuk, I focused a lot of time really getting into the trenches of Facebook and Twitter. And those are the two that I really like the most. So that's why I spend time on them. So that meant, networking and schmoozing and hanging out and trying to talk to influential people and asking people for interviews and connecting with other entrepreneurs and just all that kind of relationship building stuff that you hear about. I spent a lot of time, hours a day on Facebook and Twitter, really getting to know people and sort of build that following. So that was kind of number two. Number three was I became a media whore in a big way, big time media whore. And I would look for really any angle that you could get into the media with, whether it's a local media or a blog or something like that. So I was a tech expert, which I am not at all, and I even told them that. I was a tech expert on a show called Great Day St. Louis, which was on Channel 4 here, CBS. I got to go on and talk about some technology sometimes. I would write for things like Small Biz Trends and other sites. And so everything was a step-by-step process, though, of trying to think, how can I gain visibility and attract the right people into my world? So media was a big element of that as well. And just really, I did it all on my own. I didn't have a PR person or money to spend on it. It was just step-by-step, starting with small blogs, starting with small media sources, and then building up to things like the New York Times.
You hustled.
And another element, and this one is the I would say relatively overlooked by especially people in the online world and in the lifestyle design world, which is a world I'm very passionate about, like you are, Robert.
Yep.
Is the face-to-face at a scale. So face-to-face is important. Like no one would argue, I don't think, against face-to-face, but sometimes we like to hide behind our computers, and that's okay. That's fine. But, I got to a point where it's like we need to get some more just kind of feelers out there, just some more feeling around the brand. And so I hosted about 26 events over 2 years in St. Louis and brought out entrepreneurs. We did dinners, we did lunches, we did speed networking, we did seminars, anything that I could do. And they were not money makers, Robert, really. I mean, if anything, they might have lost me a little bit of money at the time, but they were great brand builders. They got people out, they got people shaking hands, they got people to kind of meet each other under the Rise to the Top brand.
Got it.
Which was something that was very important. And it was time consuming and it was a little bit annoying, let's just be honest, because planning events so frequently was not easy, to say the least. But I found that, plus speaking, which I did for a while and I do less of it now, but speaking was also something. So it wasn't one magic pill. And I think that's one of the key takeaways. It was a combination of little tiny bricks. Little brick, little brick, little brick, and then over time things start to flood, and I think that's kind of a synopsis of it.
Okay, don't go anywhere. Hang on just 1 sec, and we'll be right back.
If you want to learn how Rob and Kim leverage technology to create the income, time, and freedom to regularly travel from one jet-set destination to the other using their proven system, you can claim your risk-free trial membership to Jet Set Money by going to getjetsetmoney.com. Here's Rob.
So you really went out on a limb when you first started out. I understand that you took your pile of bar mitzvah money and you set out after your dream. What was it like? I mean, you're just starting out. You've got, virtually no money other than the nest egg from your bar mitzvah, which, by the way, I want to see a video of. And you
there was a chimp at my bar mitzvah. My mom had a chimp at my bar mitzvah.
I totally believe it. I want to see the video.
It's unbelievable.
So, what was that like? And really the thrust of this question is, how did you look at that fear and say, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway?
Great question, and that's exactly what happened. That's not an exaggeration. That is absolutely no exaggeration. I took my bar mitzvah money and got going with this, and I got my expenses down to as little as I possibly can, and I said I'm going to make this happen because I knew CNN and stuff like that had started. They lost like $100 million for like 10 years or something, something like that. And I said,
Right.
You know what, I don't quite have that amount of cash, so I got to keep this very, cheap as possible to get started. And I actually didn't even go that cheap because I did TV. So I can tell you that what happened with me, and this is, I think, one of the keys to success early on, was that I just wanted to get through 2008. I just wanted to survive 2008 and not be living on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
That was the goal. The goal was, I started this really, the first episode aired in St. Louis, I want to say early October 2008, and it was a 12-episode thing, right? So my goal was to not be homeless by December 31st.
So much for stating goals in the positive, right?
You know what I'm saying? So the goal was, how can I, just survive this to kind of show that it works? And if it works, then I can start in 2009 and go from there. And so what happened was, and this is where I had a little bit of an advantage, but I took the bar mitzvah money, and then I had some existing sponsorship relationships because of pro inline hockey for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the key takeaways, though, is that relationships go with you no matter what you're doing if you do them correctly. You don't leave them behind.
Yeah, because they're tied to you.
Right, exactly. So, for example, let's just use a gas station that was on the run mobile, because we did a lot of local advertising in the early days.
Okay.
The gas station on the run mobile had a relationship with me, not pro inline hockey. So whenever I shifted gears, there was a trust and a relationship built up there that I was able to go to them and say, look, I'm doing this show. It's on entrepreneurship. Here's what it is. I had it all laid out. It was very, very organized. This is when it's going to be on. I'm putting all my money into it. I would love to get you guys in at the early ground here as an advertiser, as a sponsor. And they did. And I was able in those early days to raise, I want to say about 80 grand in sponsorship.
Wow, that's pretty good starting out.
Yeah, I mean, with nothing. We didn't even have a demo or anything.
Right.
Nothing. I mean, nothing. I was selling air. But it was based on trust and relationships that were built up over time. And I think that when you do something exciting and different,